Awesome.
All
All
right.
right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. We had a Zoom Sunday afternoon glitch. Gosh, only knows what is wrong with technology. But thank you so much for hanging out with us and working through it. My name is Jessica Labazetta. I am with the Arts Chamber of Commerce. And we are so excited to have you here on the second day of our virtual expo. For those that are joining us live or watching the replay later, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn about our artists and then hopefully go wander their virtual booths and bring home some of their amazing art. We are so excited to actually be able to have a chance to talk with some artists today. So, our first talk this morning, we are getting going. I always like to have our guests introduce themselves because I feel like coming from you, your introduction of yourself is so much better than anything I could write. So, Betty, who are you with and what do you do?
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much. First of all, a shout out to the St. Louis Arts Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. It's the first time. And as you explained, technical glitches can always happen. So it happened. In fact, I probably spent the last 15 minutes having a wonderful conversation with myself, talking about myself, talking all about my art. Whew. And then I get a phone call and said, "Are you online?" Well, of course. So you introduced me as Betty, but I now go by Elizabeth Moore,
Okay.
or Elizabeth Betty Moore. Um, I've discovered that in the St. Louis area, there are other Elizabeth Moore and other Betty Moores who are artists. So that's why I go by Elizabeth Betty Moore, but everybody knows me by Betty, so that's fine. So I'm coming to you from my studio office gallery, St. Louis Photos Fine Art Gallery, and we're in a Victorian storefront on South St. Louis. And I've lived here and worked here as a fine artist and photographer for about 19 years. My husband and I, my late husband and I, we bought this building and he was thrilled because the first floor was just totally open and he could have his photography studio there. And then I have my office on the second floor and I'm speaking to you from my computer. And then on the third floor is my art studio. So I'm running up and down the floors all day long, and I have a huge garden adjoining the building, which becomes the inspiration for a lot of my artwork. Um, I've been painting, or let me back that up. I've always wanted to be an artist. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I was always drawing, probably on a lot of walls, because then I remember drawing with crayons and paper and doing greeting cards at Christmas time. That's why it's really nice to have this expo at Christmas time because everyone's in a mood for sharing and especially artwork. So my first recollection of actually painting was during a road trip that I took with my grandmother. And this, I must have been maybe 8 or 9. And we traveled to the Southwest, in particular New Mexico, because she worked the concession stands. And so I tagged along probably to keep watch of her more than so for her to keep watching me. But I had all these paint by number kits. And it was just wonderful. They happened to be Western, horses and cowboys and Indians. So it was really a lot of fun. And I remember taking all those paints when I came back and actually using the leftover paints and creating landscapes, deserts. I remember there was a path going through cactus and you could see the mountains in the background. Well, I'm from Denver, so it was like, this was one of my favorite places. And so from there, I just kept drawing and painting. I worked many years as a graphic designer. I was the art director for Santerre Bank for about 5 years in the 80s. And then in the 90s, I had my own company, McGrath Design Group, and did a lot of work for corporate clients. But I always wanted to draw. I always wanted to paint. I was just creative and curious. And so finally, about 12 years ago, I really started painting professionally. And maybe about 4 years ago, I actually started selling my work. And people say, well, what inspires you? I say, well, everything. I would go with Bob, and we would go through the parks and we would take pictures because I was learning how to be a photographer. And which is a thrill because you're looking through a lens and you're seeing the landscape or people or just plants in such a different environment, such a different exposure. And you're very aware of composition and light and color. And so I took that experience back and I tried to bring that to the canvas. Not so much duplicating exactly on the canvas, although I am a perfectionist, and I do paint things over until I get them right or they inspire me. But for example, and this comes back to the storefront that I'm in. This was built for tailors who immigrated from Germany in 1896. And they created a lot of the clothes for the high society that was attending the 1904 World's Fair. So there is a display window downstairs, which now houses a Christmas display train set. So you can see that on my YouTube videos. But the fact that they were very much tied into the 1904 World's Fair, and this is where all the work was created right here. So I thought, well, that is really cool. So I wanted to do something that tied in with Forest Park. And there, it's just an incredible place in St. Louis, which has all their museums, the Art Museum, the Zoo, the Muni, the Science Center. But it has landscape that you're not always aware of. And I had heard that they did a renovation of Deer Lake, and particularly the rifles. And say like, okay, I've never seen that. So we drove through the park one day and we saw an older couple walking along Government Drive and asked where the rifles were. And she said, oh, well, it's just over there. So I grabbed my camera and I walked very carefully down the embankment and stood on the rocks out in the little brook and just waited for this egret to land. And it was just so amazing. I was really quiet. And the egret watched me and I watched it. And I got this wonderful shot. And then a little bit further east of that is an area, if you're walking along the sidewalk and you bend over and lean over the bridge, you see all these watercolors. I mean, water lilies. I didn't know Forest Park had water lilies. So that just really inspired me to do this painting. And I must say that Monet has inspired me to do just the way he treated his paints and the light and his brush strokes. So I really tried to bring that kind of feel to this painting, make it aware that of the way that the sky and the clouds were reflected into the water, and just the great sense of peace. And that is a wonderful thing about getting out in nature, is just, especially now with this COVID, I think being out, be able to hike, walk, just listen to the birds, just being still and quiet and just kind of absorbed in the fact that we have all this beauty around us. And that's really what I wanted to do, was just be a part of that. It's made a difference in my life. And I just hope by sharing these paintings that it'll make a difference in other people's life. This is another painting of the water lilies at the Missouri Botanical Garden. And from this, I was inspired to create a collection of scarves and face masks and purses, blouses. It's just been really a wonderful experience. But I think what I really feel about being an artist is that I'm blessed to have this kind of capability to share nature with people, or to share an experience, or to share a moment of peace and quiet for my family, or our friends, or just people who are really interested. And that has really meant a lot to me. I've come to appreciate it more and more. Each painting that I do becomes a little more expressive, a little more satisfying. There's a lot of disasters along the way, believe me. I'm never quite satisfied with any paintings that I do. So the next one is just always better. And my husband used to have a saying. He said, "You're only as good as your last photo." So I take that to heart, and I say, I'm only as good as my last painting. So each one is a challenge. And, sometimes what inspired me? Well, sometimes I just have to challenge myself. And there was a challenge that I joined, and the idea was to do a painting every day. Yeah, that was ambitious. Nothing the size of these. These are 36 by 36. These are more like 5 by 7, a couple 8 by 10s. And I did it. It surprised me. Every day I went to the studio and just sat down, and you had to paint from something live. You couldn't use a photograph. So I would set up little tabletops or just grab objects around me and just start painting them. And what it taught me was that just by looking at form, the function, the light, the shadow, you don't always have to duplicate exactly what's there, but you can create that presence. The shadows don't have to be a dark brown or a dark blue. I like purple. I think purple and dark blue are wonderful for shadows. As you see, I do paint a little purple into all of my paintings now. That's kind of my trademark. And so another trademark is that when I'm painting, I'm telling myself stories, because these are places that I've been, and I remember what it felt like, the breeze against my face, or the birds off in the distance, or people laughing and talking. And so as I'm putting down the paint, I'm just thinking about that and remembering it. And sometimes it just happens that when I step back and look at the painting, I'm surprised myself, because the clouds, suddenly I see faces in the clouds. I know that's weird, right? But there was one painting that I did of Bell Fountain Cemetery, and they have this incredible landscape there. It was all newly renovated, and Bob and I were scouring the St. Louis area for photos for a commissioned book that he'd been hired to do. And one of the locations was Bell Fountain Cemetery. I'd never been there, and I was just astounded at the incredible beauty, not just in the statues and the buildings, but the landscaping was amazing. And so I took some pictures and did a painting of the babbling brook coming over the rocks, and there were water lilies in the background. And when I finished, Bob said, "Do you know that one rock is laughing at you?" So off to the corner, there was a laughing rock, and off to the other corner was a grumpy rock. And I swear, now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. It just doesn't happen. I cannot unsee it. So there was another painting that I did, and it was the mountains. It was Snow Canyon and the beautiful, beautiful landscape in southern Utah, and just sage for as far as you could see. And when I finished painting, the rock formations, one looked like a sentry that was just, his eyes were closed, like he was just looking off into the distance. And another one looked like a monster, with the hands coming over, the shadows in the rock. It just made you think of that. But directly in the middle of that painting, in the sagebrush, was a smiley face. I didn't do that on purpose. When I started looking at the painting and I went back and I looked at the picture that I was working on, it was there. So sometimes it's there and you just don't see it. But I think that brings a whole new element of excitement to the paintings. And that's what I really want, is people to get to connect to my paintings. So,
That's wonderful.
you know, I see some other people on here, but I don't see their pictures. So I
So
don't
some
know.
people, yeah, some people in this age of Zoom don't want to be on camera. So I always say, like, no
Okay.
worries. They don't want to be live. You know, some people are still probably in pajamas, you know, even though it's 1:30. No judgment.
No.
So because we started a little bit late, we are at our time, but I do have a few more minutes. I wanted to make sure you were good on time as well. Can you give us a few more
I
minutes or?
I am good on time
Okay.
because there's just a few things. Not like I've been talking about my paintings, but also my photography, and I have a few samples of some of my work, and
We'd
in
love
particular, this is one of my photographs, and it's on canvas. It's a gallery wrap canvas,
that's
and this photograph is from the garden in downtown St. Louis, the sculpture garden, City
Mhm.
Garden. You're probably familiar with it.
Of course.
The Missouri Botanical Garden horticulturists were the ones that did the landscaping. So I was really excited to see that. And I had a new lens, 100 millimeter macro. So I really wanted to try it out. It just worked wonderful. And then tagging back into Forest Park again, the balloon glow. I mean, who doesn't like the balloon glow?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So this is one of my balloon pictures that I did. And I almost got knocked over when I was taking this because I was on the field as a media person taking pictures of the hot air balloons. And this one lifted off unexpectedly and Bob had to kind of pull me back. So, but I got my picture and that was worth it.
That's worth it. So Elizabeth, tell me, so for someone who has two different media that they work in, is it just however you feel like when you wake up that morning? I feel like I want to paint or I feel like I want to take a photo. How do you decide what medium to work on any particular?
Oh, that's a really good question. For the past 25 years, my husband and I, we have this website, St. Louis Front Page. So many of the events that we covered, the parades, the ribbon cuttings, the architecture, that was one of the reasons why he was commissioned to do this book on St. Louis. And so that became a challenge to just try to get a great picture of the parade or the great picture of the balloons, and then it would be published in the St. Louis Front Page. So that was mostly my photography. Painting, like I said, that depends on, well, okay, I challenge myself. I'm going to do a live Facebook show. What? So I did 3 of them. They were fundraisers for the MS Society, and they were just wonderfully successful. I was just really appreciative of my family and friends who really supported me with that endeavor. So really, painting, it can be on request, or it's just I have something that's coming up. Like I'm going to do a stocking stuffer show on December the 16th. And this would just be small 5 by 10, very affordable paintings that people can use as stocking stuffer or last minute gifts. And so that's been really exciting. So all that information is below. They can just click on the stlouisphotos.com and go there. And to sign up for my newsletter. Now, one of the important things about my newsletter, and I'm going to announce this, and I will send out an email about it, but
Very cool.
this is a picture of Crown Candy Kitchen. It's 16 by 20, and it was one that my husband took of the very popular ice cream parlor up in North St. Louis. And I'm going to do this as a free giveaway to everyone that signs up for my newsletter.
Fun.
Or follows me on Instagram or likes me on Facebook. So this is it's on gallery wrapped canvas, all ready to hang. Okay. And it's 16 by 20. And the value of this is $264. So, like any expo, you're always looking for those big surprise giveaways. So of course, this is what I really wanted to do for this expo. And I really appreciate the opportunity. So spread the word, sign up. For everybody that signed up on my newsletter, they will be in the drawing. And the drawing, I will announce the winner at my next Facebook Live show, which will be December the 16th. So just had to get those little plugs in there.
No, please, absolutely. This is a plug away. No, we love it. Okay, so I have another question for you about
Yes.
some of the smaller end. I know this is a hard question to answer, but take the photos behind you. How long does it take you to go from blank canvas to ready to sell? And obviously the sizes or something.
Oh,
Like,
that's
do you do
a
it in one full swoop or what?
great question. Well, for the daily challenges, those I only had a couple hours a day to work on,
Right.
2 hours at the most, and then my hand would just give out. It really depends on size. There was one that I did at Union Station with Aloe Plaza and the fountains. That probably took me 10 months because I had to do a lot of research, going constantly back and forth, taking pictures, the time of day just to get the shadows right on the water, and then just working at it off and on. I wasn't really serious about selling my work at that time, so it was just more a learning experience. But mostly they can take anywhere from a couple weeks, maybe to a couple months. It depends on how busy I am. If they really want it, oh, okay. I learned that when I was working in a corporate environment, you had to make those deadlines,
Yeah.
especially in banking. They didn't care. If you had to work all night, that's what you had to do. And that has carried over me in my career here as a painter, is that
Mm.
if it takes an all-night session, it takes an all-night session. And there was one night where I couldn't really sleep anyway because it was around the 4th of July and people were shooting off fireworks all over anyway. So I just stayed up working on paintings. And yeah, sometimes it's not always the best environment, but it was fun. Okay, except for that I was drawing tiny, fine little lines, and that firework just kind of, I had to redo a lot of lines.
Oh dear. Yeah, sometimes you just have to, like you said, go for that deadline, whatever that is. That's really is a really interesting segue. I've got one more question and then we'll see if we have any questions in the chat and then we'll call it a day. But I've been asking people this question: what do you wish people knew about the business of your art? We are here to celebrate and support small artists who are also small business owners. So what do you wish people knew about the business of your art?
Yes, I do get that asked a lot. Why choose art?
Yeah.
You hear the expression starving artists.
Mm.
That's so out of place. I mean, art is like any other profession. You just have to work at it. You have a medium that you can share. It's very creative, but it's no different than somebody who spends a lifetime studying to be a teacher, studying to be a master craftsman, banking, finance, whatever career you're in, you're putting a lot of time in it and you do it because you love it. Okay, you also get paid too. So being an artist, I look at it as this is what I do. In the morning, I'm doing marketing, spending a couple hours on the computer, answering email, calling people. It's marketing. And then the afternoon, I set aside time to paint. And sometimes late into the night, I'll get a call from my daughter and she said, "Have you eaten yet?" "Oh, okay. I guess I should do that." So you're an entrepreneur, you are 24/7, you're managing the business, and whatever you put back into that business, you're going to reap. It's a long-term process. It doesn't happen overnight. I don't care what they say about the internet. It does not happen overnight. It's constantly working it every day. You're constantly thinking, how can I make it better? How can I reach out to those people? Oh, what is it about my artwork that they like or don't dislike? I'm not going to make everybody happy. I'm certainly not happy all the time, but it's just something that I love and I feel driven to do. And now if I'm not painting or not drawing, I get a little antsy. I get a little stressed out. So I go out and play in my garden and pull weeds and dig holes. Just
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that there is a lot of things that people don't realize, that if you're the artist, you're kind of a one-man band for a lot of it. And so that's one of the reasons the chamber is here, is to support artists in that, the marketing, the back end, the business of being an artist. I think people forget that artists are small business owners. So
and networking. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to reach out on Facebook or Instagram and just talk with other artists. How do you resolve this situation? And I have found that artists, no matter how experienced they are so generous with information, so helpful. I've never been turned down for asking a stupid question, although I feel really stupid most of the time. Um, but they are so generous with their time and sharing, and just like, you can do it, you know. You just keep at it. Just don't give up. Do not give up. You just got to be resilient and hang in there, because you will get better.
that's awesome to hear that the artist community is as supportive of each other as one would hope. That's really good to hear, especially obviously in unprecedented times, 2020, COVID, all of the things. It's super important,
I
especially.
mean, who would imagine 10 months ago being able to share my artwork live on the internet? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm comfortable behind a camera. I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. And doing Instagram and Facebook, you're basically talking to yourself. So you have to be very entertaining and just create that imaginary audience.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. I don't know how these people do it. I mean,
Well, it's
it's humbling.
outside of your norm, and like we said,
It's
that's what it's hard to be an
definitely.
entrepreneur and have to do all the things. Well, that is about all the time we have. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that you would love to get out into the world? You got your newsletter giveaway, which is awesome. You've got some really beautiful landscapes that are going to be available in your virtual booth.
Well, thank you,
Anything else?
Jessica. Um, I uploaded a lot of pictures of places where I've exhibited my artwork, and some of my more recent paintings of my granddaughter and her horse, my brother and his wife, um, a birthday party. Since I couldn't celebrate with anybody, I did a birthday party of sorts, painting outside in my garden, tied 3 balloons to a chair and did a plein air painting. And it was great, except for the wind. So I admire plein air artists. They really have a lot of courage and stamina. I'm very fortunate just to have a wonderful studio to do these paintings in. And so I'm grateful. And thank you again for your support in making this happen.
Of course, we're so excited to peek into your studio and
Thank
check
you.
check out some of your amazing art. Well, again, I just wanted to say thank you to Elizabeth for joining us today. For all those that are joining us live or on the replay, please make sure to go visit her booth and check out these amazing pieces. And don't forget to sign up for her newsletter to possibly win that amazing photo of Crown Candy, which now I'm definitely craving a BLT. So
Right. So that's stlouisphotos.com, and just sign up.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye
All
bye.
right. Thanks, Jessica.